morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Turgon the Wise coming at you with a new video today. And today is Bag End Edition. Woo! So we've been chilling in Bag End now for quite some time, actually. We arrived here on August 7th, and it's now the 25th. So we've been here almost 3 weeks, and we'll be here for a little bit longer. And it was planned this way. So a lot of people, I think, are wondering, what's next for Yudz? And I had said this at the end of my season 20 recap, my previous video, that Yudz is planning to wait for the mega server to end before we will dive into our next season. We decided to do this because we wanted to be either on a server with as many of these teams as possible, or at least align, like closer to alignment with them. And a lot of people, I see a lot of stuff. People are so funny, coming up with the reasons why Yudz didn't join this mega server. And the answer is purely and simply and on 100% honestly this: our previous season, season 19, completed on May 21st. We didn't want to wait until July 15th to play. It's almost 2 months. It's like 7 weeks. That's crazy. Who willingly waits 7 weeks to not play on a dime without having pre-planned to do so? Well, it wasn't us, and that's the reason why we um, didn't wait around for the mega server. Um, like 100%, we didn't want to wait that long. So we joined a server, and that server was what it was. You can watch my video on that. And we came into Bag End with the plan of waiting for the mega server to end so we could play or be closely aligned with the teams that are on the mega server. Now, I have reached out to all the teams on the mega server to invite them to join our next server. Um, some people coined this as the next mega server, but it's not going to be another mega server. Most of the teams, quite honestly, for one reason or another, declined to join. What I can tell you is that we will be playing a server with some of the teams, and what we're looking to do now is pair off with some mid-level teams to create a balanced server. The goal, not just next season, but every season, and it's not a new goal that I just came up with today. This has really been my goal throughout the entire history of my time playing the game. And you can go back and watch my videos in my channel where I have talked about this quite a bit. If you don't believe me, it's always my goal to facilitate balanced, fun, active, competitive servers, big fights, low toxicity. Big fights, low toxicity. Big battle pens. Big, big, big. I want lots of players involved. I want lots of competition. I want, you know, the whole server to have a good time, win or lose. And there's a lot of different types of leaders and teams and players out there, and you can't control that. We can only control ourselves. And so that's what we're working to facilitate here. And we've talked with teams that are teams we have good relationships with, that are like-minded in the pursuit of big fights and low toxicity. If this is something that interests you, please come and talk to me. If you're a leader, come and speak to me directly, either on Discord or if you know me in game. You can reach out to me anytime, Turgon9699 on Discord. I'm happy to have a conversation with you, and we can see where it goes. But that is the goal. And, the next server, it might not be a mega server, but if we're able to achieve that goal, then maybe the server after that could be a similar server but bigger, also known as a mega server. Because the current mega server has its drawbacks, and I want to talk about that real quick. Um, I don't know everything about what has happened on this mega server. I will be 100% abundantly clear. I don't know the nuances of the interpersonal relationships, the diplomacy. I know that it's been a very stressful server for a lot of people in and out of leadership. But I think there are things that could have been done better from a planning perspective that might have mitigated some of the toxicity. And it all comes to setup. Now, on the mega server, there are two big factions in the West. There's Toby and Steppe and Angmar, and there is Merc and Gods and Arnor. So if you think of the map, the way that you see this map is broken up into the 9 starting regions, okay? And I'm just going to spell them out here for you in case you're a person who doesn't know this or it's the first time you're hearing about this. So in Rebuilding Glory campaign, it's Angmar, Linden, and Arnor. If you're playing Tactics Evolved or Rings of Power, it's Forodwaith, Blue Mountains, or Enidwaith. That is the western sector. I'm going to start using the word sector. I've been using the word quadrant a lot, and somebody brought to my attention that quadrant contains the word quad, and that insinuates 4. So now I don't like using that word. I'm still probably going to use it here and there, just out of habit. But I'm going to try to use the word sector. So that's your western sector. The southern sector is Rohan, Gondor, and Mordor. If you're playing Rebuilding Glory, in Tactics Evolved or Rings of Power, it's going to be White Mountains, Valley of the Five Streams, and Darklands. That's your southern sector, and then the eastern sector. If you're playing Rebuilding Glory, it's going to be Lothlorien, Erebor, and Rune. In Tactics Evolved or Rings of Power, it's the East, Iron Hills, and Ered Mithrin. Now, the way that each server is now gated, and I'm just giving this fundamental this is every server. Every server is now gated. You get 5 days to farm your starting region on day 5, right? Because the season starts at 0800 UTC, either on a Tuesday or a Friday. All right. Now, 5 days after you start at 0800 UTC, the passes into one of these central regions opens up. If you're out in the west, it's to Eriador. And there's a bunch of regions in here like Etten whatever the Rivendell region is, Durin's Vale, Aregion, Cardalon, that's all out here. If you're in the southern region, then southern Rovanian opens up, and that has stuff like Fangorn and the Wold, Eastamnet, Emmenmuil, Dead Marshes, Daggerlad, Brownlands, all that opens up here. And if you're in the eastern quadrant, then on day 5 you get access to like Gladden Fields and Central Mirkwood, um, East Bite, those kind of places. Upper Anduin Vale. And then on day 10, the passes between each of the kingdom spawns, this whole big donut out here, all this unlocks, right? So between days 5 and 10, you have fighting all throughout this sector, and you can have fighting all throughout this sector, and you can have fighting all throughout this sector. And then on day 10 at 0800 UTC, the passes unlock between all of the spawn realms. So the West can now fight with the East, the West can fight with the South can fight with the East can fight with, they can all this opens up. So everything is open except for this central region, which is what commonly gets referred to as the ring regions. Those open up at 0800 UTC on day 16. And there's 2 passes between Eriador and Lorien. There's 2 passes into southern Anduin Vale one from I believe Gladden or Celebrant. I can't. Oh, Celebrant's down here. I'm sorry, it's Gladden, and then one from Central Mirkwood, and then in Rovanian you've got one from Brownlands into Undeeps, and then one from Celebrant into Undeeps. So that's how everything, the flow of everything for the first 16 days of the season, and then a week later on day 23 at 0800 UTC, Dol Guldur opens up and teams can now fight for the ring. So that's the first 23 days of every season. And every season minimally will go 53 days. If your season starts on a Friday, you can basically add 7 weeks, 49 days, and then whatever the Wednesday is after day 49, that's going to be your cutoff at 0000 UTC on Wednesday, the 53rd day of the season. That's going to be your cutoff. If your season starts on a Tuesday, then you're going to go to 57 days. And this has been proven true not only prior to the mega server starting in June, but now today, if the mega server was going to go 50 days, they would have gotten their cutoff this morning, and they didn't. I know because I asked a friend. And so by this time next week, they will have their cutoff. 10-day cutoff, 1 week from today. I'll put $1 on it. Challenge me. I'm just kidding. I'm poor. Anyway, so yeah, that's the mega server will end on Wednesday, September the 10th. They will be coming to Bag End on September the 11th, and I'm excited to hear about the outcome of that server. It should be a good server, even though um, things didn't go, I think, the way that a lot of folks had anticipated. Um, But that's part of the game, and that's one of the things that makes the great game great is that you can't anticipate everything, and you shouldn't want to. I mean, if you're going to control a season from day 1 to day 53 or 57, then it kind of makes it boring for everyone, right? So my goal, short term and long term, is to facilitate balanced servers with big fights and low toxicity. That's the goal, short term and long term. And there are different formats that we can apply to set that up. Now, I was talking about earlier, the mega server had a big faction in Angmar and in Arnor, so two big factions in the west. And I think that really made this server difficult for everyone. It started the server off with imbalance because the the factions that were in the east and the south got a tremendous amount of farm before they even had an opportunity to fight anyone. Like I'm going to just guesstimate 3 million affluence because they could just farm the whole sector. The whole sector. I think that there is some other colors over in here, like with Rune or some other, some small factions. But all in all the farm for this whole sector got eaten by one faction. So let's say 3 million affluence for each of these factions. Meanwhile, you've got the 3 million is basically split between these two factions. So they're probably, let's say they're at like 1.8 each. You can't compete at 1.8 affluence against a team with 3 million affluence. It doesn't, you would have to be incredibly strong to be able to overcome that level of farm disparity. And the way that the map is geographically set up, the West has two outlets into Lorien, and I don't know, Lorien just doesn't seem like a great battleground to me. It's like within Lorien, between two teams to challenge for supremacy over that region. Whereas Undeeps has, I think Undeeps is one of, and Southern Anduin Vale are two of the greatest places to have fights in the game. There's all kinds of stuff that you can, and I could be wrong. Lorien could be a cool place too. I have had some good fights in Lorien a bunch of seasons ago with like Toby and Bank and Eilil and Gods. We had some great fights in Lorien, um, but I just think the way that the format is now, I would rather see if you're going to have you know, a four strong faction or kingdom format. I would rather have one kingdom out in the west because they kind of get trapped out there, right? And if you have, let's say, the other strong kingdom is the east, and then you've got two kingdoms in the south. Well, when the day 16 passes open, one kingdom could go into Undeeps through Celebrant, and the other kingdom could go into Undeeps from Brownlands, and that has some opposition to it. So there can be that can make Undeeps into a good battleground. Similarly, when you look at Southern Anduin Vale, the entrance into Southern Anduin Vale from Gladden is over here, and from Central Mirkwood is over here. That creates an area where if you have two teams over here, that sets up a good clash over that that region. Whereas in Lorien, you've got one pass here and one pass here, and it's like you got to go all the way around all these rivers and stuff to meet each other. And I just don't fancy it to be a great battleground. So for that reason and that reason only, I think the West should be for whoever the kingdom is that is perceived to be the strongest kingdom, because it's the most challenging place to emerge victorious from. When you're starting in the east and in the south, you have geographic proximity to the ring regions automatically. This line right here is the Misty Mountains. And it is tough if you're starting in the west to cross over and legitimately compete in this area. So my recommendation is stronger perceived teams in the west, less strong perceived teams in the east and the south. In a four-man setup, where you can also do several other setups, it's all what everyone, in my opinion, my recommendation would be to have, if you're doing four big kingdoms or four big factions, that's 8 teams, and that's okay. It's possible. You can work with that. But I think the optimal setup would be free for all with 9 big teams. And every big team gets one starting region all to their little selves. And then when the 5-day passes open up, you get a big old three-way in Ariador, in Northern Ravanian, and in Southern Ravanian. And that could potentially facilitate fights for the whole season. If it's truly balanced, then when the day 16 passes open into the ring regions, everyone's going to be too busy to go in there. And if somebody does go in there, they're going to risk losing some of their spawn farm to get a chance to get this farm, because someone is going to be nipping at them. If one of the three teams falls or uh, forms a pact with the other team and creates some sort of a win condition within that sector, then that's one thing. That's one possible scenario. Some pacts could be made to help save a team that's dying. It's impossible to know what every team is working with on the onset of a season. And it's impossible because you can base a team off of their last season, but the reality is every team has turnover every season. No one has 100% retention from season to season. It doesn't happen. Either the team cuts players that go AFK and don't contribute, or players leave for whatever reason. Maybe they want to go play with other friends. Maybe they want to be on a more competitive team. Maybe they want to be on a less competitive team. Maybe there's disagreements with. There's all kinds of reasons why players move to different teams throughout this game. And one of the things that I've learned, because a lot of people talk about how small the community has gotten. I have spoken with no less than 29 teams over the last several weeks about joining this server. So there are still a lot of good teams out there that can contribute and compete and have fun playing this game. That's what I want to facilitate. So I've talked to you about the four faction 4 kingdom format, and then the free for all 9, and then the last thing, the mega server, the hot tamale, the goal that I would like to set would be for 12 teams to compete, where we could have a strong kingdom in 2 strong kingdoms in each sector. So you have a 1v1 kingdoms, or 2 teams versus 2 teams, 2v2 in the west, in the east, and then the south. And then whoever emerges victorious within the quadrant is then allowed to move into the ring regions at whatever time that is deemed acceptable for those who are involved. That could be day 16 if things have been determined by that point. If there is a sector or two that does not have a clear winner as determined by all the leaders on the server or within that quadrant, trolling notwithstanding, then you can wait a little bit longer, maybe even as long as till DG opens up before everyone starts heading center, or it can be even longer than that, however long it takes. But the goal is to facilitate big fights, low toxicity, and ideally not be bored for half the season. And I know there are some teams that have done a really great job with this, um, like Lame and Toby. Their servers all year have been servers that have basically came down to the last day, and that is incredible. And some of it is, it happens for a variety of reasons. Some of it is organic, some of it is manufactured, but the bottom line is you got to tip your cap to, and I don't mean to just call out Toby and Lame. I know there are lots of other teams that have done this too. So I just want to tip my cap to leaders who are able to facilitate this, because a year ago, if you told me that servers were going to be like this, I would say that it was like capturing lightning in a bottle, and it's very, very difficult to replicate. But these leaders have figured out a way to do it consistently, and maybe that's intentional. Maybe it's not. Maybe they like that. Maybe they don't. I don't know. I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but that is my goal. That's what I would love to see for myself as an interest as a player, as a leader for a team that's considered an elite team in a community that is hungry for something that is different from the status quo of just playing to win at all costs. I mean, at this point in my Rise to War career and in most of Yud's players' minds, we've won quite a bit. And everyone loves to win. Everyone wants an opportunity to win, and everyone should play to win. Because let's face it, teams that play for second place hurt the community. Okay? Everyone should want a stake at the table and to play to win. That's fair to have that kind of a desire. But I think for teams that start getting into being, doing some kind of like dirty tactics, with like, I hear, I'll name a couple of examples, like teams that spawn alts in opposing kingdoms to mess with them. Not cool. Teams that deliberately are toxic to generate an emotional response from other teams. I don't think that's cool either. And like, to each their own. You know, life is a blank slate. You're free to do whatever you want. But just me personally, out of principle, you won't see me doing those kind of things. And uh, as a leader in Yudz, we all have a very similar set of principles and philosophies. And you won't see this coming from Yudz. And so that's why we seek teams that are like minded in terms of, the principles and the desire for big fights, low toxicity, active, action packed servers that aren't boring for 3, 4, hell, even maybe sometimes 5 weeks. So, if this is something that resonates with you and interests you, please reach out to me. Let me know. I appreciate you all very much for taking the time to watch my video. If you're starting school today or this week, I hope you have a great school year. It's Monday, so if you're starting your work week, I hope you have a great week ahead. Best of luck to everyone on every server, whether you just started or you're about to finish or you're getting ready to start. Love you all. Care about everyone deeply. Care about this game. Still love this game. And I hope that we can get something together here, in September and in November to really kind of stretch the capabilities of the game and show everyone what the game is capable of, not only in terms of the fights and the big pins, but also in terms of just setting an example, not only for, to set up good servers, but also, to have those low toxicity, to have a lot of fun, to foster, good relationships, friendships, fellowship, and love. So that's going to do it for my video today. Thanks again for taking the time to watch. I appreciate you. Give me a like, give me a subscribe. Let me know what you think. If you have feedback or questions, leave it in the comments section below. Turgon the Wise signing off. Cheers.